Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So what we're going to be doing today is we're returning back with the Spectating series. And I'm really excited because we're actually going to be returning back to the old format. So we're actually going to be spectating around the silver bracket. So what I'm going to show on screen is I believe that most people are around bronze and silver bracket overall. And the reason why is provisional matches is definitely becoming more of a thing as we do ranked. I think that this season of ranked, you're going to see that it's a lot slower from my own experience. It's definitely slower from doing multiple provisional matches from the launch on Saturday. And now what we've done is we've logged into a brand new account that I have not touched in about a season or two. I don't remember the last time I logged into this account. But the reason why I wanted to see what it looked like on a fresh account. One big warning though is I noticed that the queue times for this account were astronomically high. It took me about 4 or 5 minutes just to get into queue. Maybe that'll be different. Maybe it's because I haven't logged into this account in a while. Maybe it's logging a higher MMR than it needs to. I'm not quite sure, but I definitely found that very strange. So let's break down a little bit of the setup again. The goal is not to throw. The cost per entry is a little bit more rough, and it definitely is a lot slower, so our intention is not to throw any rounds. You want to see the full lobby play out the way it was intended, meaning, you know, we don't want to just throw ourselves off the map. We don't want to throw a game. Last time we were doing it, things were very different, but now as people are starting to rank up and take ranked a lot more seriously, I think it's about time that we go back to our old rule set. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass it, unless, okay, they've got it, and we're going to follow their lead. Now, the hard part is I'm actually going back to playing a lot of Watson again. And just as a friendly reminder as well, this series has a lot of commentary, a lot of tips, and a lot of things that we're going to be talking through. So anybody comments down below, again, says, why is there so much talking? That's why. And a gentle reminder as well, as you do a lot of ranked, even a few matches, even though the rounds go a little faster, drink water, okay? Can't stress that enough. Now, we're back on our Watson arc. I mean, we're putting a lot more time in. If you notice, we put a short out. We've been sitting more times mastering our fences. We're going to be putting a lot of time on Watson. My theory is that, listen, if we can play really good Watson, we can teach any legend. And I really find that to be really true. So one of the biggest things you see, let's where our opponents are. Sorry, that might have actually impacted the microphone.
I don't think we should go there.
Sorry about that. Hit something. Now, where you land is important. We're contesting early on. One of the biggest things I would recommend is that most people are not actually playing zone. So because they're not playing zone, going to zone is probably going to be one of your biggest assets instead of fighting early. There's a lot of graphs and a lot of pros that have been showcasing that a lot of people are just fighting around edge. And granted, yeah, we can fight a little early, but the downside is, like, you know, going to zone is always going to be better. And asking yourself, is this fight worth it? And most of the time, it's really not. So we're going to hold. Right now, we're kind of split from both our teammates, which isn't really that great. I'm going to see if I can just go with the Revenant. The Loba can be able to get themselves out. So I'll go chill with the Revenant. I know there's one team here. Well, she should have gotten out. Very split. Sometimes you got to choose essentially one teammate that you're going to decide to play with, and sometimes the unfortunate part is that if they play split, then this is what we run into. So now we're put in a scenario where we're going to have to pretty much either hold. Let's see if I can res them. It's not going to be a good res though, unfortunately. They might be getting shot by somebody else. Hopefully the Revenant will hold. Oh, shoot. And that's it. So what we're going to do is we're going to spectate the rest of the lobby out as soon as we get eliminated here. That's okay. Listen, you know, stuff happens. But realistically, once the Loba was in danger, we just needed to get out. And don't get stressed if your teammates give you a hard time either. That's one thing I've been noticing. A lot of people are taking this rank split really, really serious. Let's see, which one said that? Was that the Revenant? I mean, the Revenant was holding, and I went for the res. It kind of is what it is. I might have dropped or picked up too much heavy. That was my bad. Listen, we all make mistakes. But hey, that's why we're here, and that's what we're spectating, right? There's always something to improve upon. So when the Loba was far out on the far right, and that would have been the moment for us to kind of get out and reassess. We went back in. The Revenant was holding up top. I should have been paying attention to what heavy ammo I was grabbing. I grabbed heavy ammo. What was I running? I was running a Volt and Wingman. So these mistakes happen, but don't let anybody ever give you a hard time about it. As the rank split starts to get a lot more sweaty, you're gonna notice a lot of people are really taking it very, very seriously again, just because the amount of time that it takes. Granted, the rounds are a little slower, or faster, excuse me. The rounds are much faster than they were by 2.5 minutes, meaning that you should be able to get more rounds in as the overall night progresses. The people are definitely sweating and putting a lot of effort in. Now, this was our first game on. You have a good, first game that you play and it doesn't go well. That's okay. You get back in. Maybe our next round that we play is going to be much better. There are just going to be honest mistakes, and don't let overall. This team is playing pretty well together here. No, they couldn't see him. Well, they were up until that point. One thing is not to get too separate. Choose who you're going to play with or overall. It's another big tip. And keep in mind if you have mobility versus if you don't, Sometimes getting out and repositioning. Now, when we say getting out, there's a few terms that we need to break down here. There's a few things that when you're looking at a fight and ask yourself, what is going on with that Bangalore? Is this fight worth it? Does it make sense for us to push? Are we going to gain any net value from it? So if your teammate is overextended, you try to rescue them, then you're kind of on a rescue mission. If they have better positioning and you want to get that positioning, then the fight is definitely worth it. If you're still looting and trying to gather information and kind of play together and feel each other out, perhaps reassessing and getting out is a better thing. Let's say I was muted here. There's a few flaws. Not everyone's going to be on microphone. Not everyone's going to understand your communication. Somebody may pick up something that was intended for you. You can run into a scenario where, let's say, you're Newcastle and somebody picks up the gold res. People aren't out to get you. That's one of the biggest tips I could provide. They're out to get you. Typing, even if they don't have a microphone, there's many reasons. Maybe they are in a situation where they can't talk. Maybe they want to talk. Maybe they're unable to talk. So there's no reason to ever... You got to find a way to accommodate your teammates as best as possible and try to decipher if the fight is worth it or not. Right now we have two teammates who are a little split. There's not a whole lot of cohesion, and that's one of the hardest parts. Keep in mind, whenever you're playing, you may run into some rounds where you just may not have good cohesion with your other teammate. It happens. And then other rounds where you are 100% locked in and in sync. It doesn't mean the other people that you're playing with are better or worse. They may just fill in the gaps of what you may lack versus somebody else. Now, let's talk about another thing early on, because now they're going to rotate to zone. The biggest discussion topic is, why do pros keep always saying to push everything? Well, when people say to push, there's a major misconception here on what is a logical push versus a push when you're trying to cover ground or do something. So let's say you're holding a building. Let's say they happen to hold this building. Holding the outside of it before you hunker down inside is like a first layer of defense. Now, when we hold outside, you're still using cover. Make sure that you're always using cover and that you're holding for your teammates and that you're trying to make your best guess on how to cover for your teammates, watching their crosses, watching their angles. So when we say being in view, when the horizon went up on height, let's see where the horizon's at right now. The horizon went on height. There was no way for them to cover the angles. You have to understand, am I able to watch in this moment? Now, there's two things that could happen even whenever we're playing with the Revenant. Let's say we did our damage and we held, but then the Revenant said, well, why didn't you res? Now, there's a lot of options that you can do, but you kind of have to go for one option for better or for worse and then decide later if it was a good option or not. That's probably the best thing you can do. Now, in terms of resources, even if they had the resources, would it have been fine for them to push? I mean, you should be able to do just fine with a little bit of a mag or whatever that you have. But my biggest tip is try not to rage against your teammates. They're there to try to help you best you can. And you may end up queuing up with them over and over again. And you never know if, because the MMR, I will admit, the MMR has been pretty brutal. And we do happen to have a no-fill series that we plan on doing, is that you may actually find that you will run into the same teammates because the MMR system is a lot more strict, especially on the upper end of things. We've been finding that on stream. Maybe you guys have been finding that as well, but also because queue times are going to be inherently longer because of it as well. There's a lot to talk about this split just because of how interesting and kind of how it flows. So right now we got two people that are playing pretty close together. It seems like the Bangalore seems to be kind of the odd person out consistently. And now they've pinged an enemy, but one of them is giving information to move, and now they're about to get sandwiched. This is a hard situation. So at this point, the Bangalore can go north or hold in the scenario. So right now she's opting to hold, and the other teammates can hold their angle, and the Wraith is doing a great job of using a port to get pretty much the team out of the situation. Now, when we look at zone, the interesting part here when we look at zone is that most people don't play it. That means that 3 teams, and I think there's a 4th one here, are mostly outside of zone. If you happen to scan the beacon, you're going to find that most teams are playing outside of zone, but as you get really high ranked, you'll also find that this will kind of flip-flop depending on your lobbies and people start to really sweat. The zone does close faster, so you have to get to zone much more efficiently. And this is, I want to say, I know this video is not going to get like crazy views and it's not going to make the biggest impact per se, but maybe you can take away the tip and go to zone and at least break top 10, because your goal is to break top 10 overall as a squad. If you break top 10, then you're going to be in a much better position to win, essentially. You know, that's why we talked about heavily deciding whether you're going to fight versus not, and that's tough to kind of decipher. Even playing as a duo, you definitely have a lot of strong positioning. As a squad, it doesn't mean the round is necessarily over either.
Let's check out that way.
Remember, it does take a little bit of time to get going. I know that some people have limited time to play. The Spectating series is a great example of that.
Let's explore this.
We are recording this during our lunch break, and unfortunately, we didn't have time to necessarily warm up, and sometimes that could lead to us not playing on par at the very start. Don't get down. Just get more consistent and try to solve and fix those things, and I promise you, you'll net out more in the long run. Let's take a look where the zone's going to pull. This is a potential lab ending right here, or hydro most of the time. How do I know that? Most of the time, what's interesting about zone pools is that you tend to find common trends and themes based on where zones pull by just playing immensely. And when the more hours you place and play, the more likely you are to understand where the zone is going to pull because you've seen it enough. And there are trends that you can kind of notice, because I've never seen it. I've seen it pull here, but it's so much outside of zone here, it's not logical. I've seen it pull labs, and I've seen it pull hydro. Not to the south here, not to the north here, not but where it's based off of. Unfortunately, they went down. This is the hard part about solo queuing. What we're going to do every Saturday is we're going to dedicate an account to solo queuing, and I'll dedicate one of my accounts to whenever I play with friends, just so we have a consistent through line of story. And the other ones, of course, we'll kind of leave for coaching. But overall, at least the goal is educational. It's just like this account that we've kind of pulled and resurrected, and we haven't touched in, geez, I don't know how long, but it's good to kind of log in and see what these matches look like. What rank do we believe all these individuals are? I mean, we got some... everyone seems to kind of know what they're doing overall, especially because the queues are taking a longer span of time. At this point, here's another good tip. I the Bangalore's pretty much doing it right now. Sometimes you may run into really sticky situations to the point where you can no longer fight. You're a duo, you're getting hit in the cross, and at this point, all you can do is essentially rotate to zone and rat. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, okay? Don't let your teammates bully you into telling you that you have to fight whenever you know that statistically the odds of winning, especially if you're in a more difficult lobby, is a lot lower. Oh no, are they going to fall? Oh man. Whew. It's not in, but that kind of made me nervous. Oh, there's a lot of good spots over here. Because at this point, if you rat and you don't play with your squad to begin with, then you're making an inherent, I guess, just mistake by not trusting your teammates and at least not try. At least make an effort to try. That's the biggest tip I can provide is just try. I will say, you know, I've been very methodical, and I've been really, it feels like I've been very serious this video. I'm actually really excited that ranked is in such a, I think it's going in the right direction. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it is trending in the right direction. They didn't even break top 10 yet. This person could have waited just to break even. I think patience in ranked is very important, especially when you're trying to get points in. Understand that there's a difference if you play. I know that some people have limited time to play, but to understand that sometimes you may be forced in a scenario where you just have to wait just like this. And it's not a bad thing if you're trying to mitigate losses and points. Now, if you want to get into more gunfights and fight and do a lot more, then my suggestion recommendation would be to actually, you know, go play pubs. Pubs is really, really sweaty right now, and I would argue in some circumstances that pubs is a little more difficult than ranked right now, just because the players who are playing it are, you know, they're really fighting and shoving everything, and sometimes it may not be the most logical scenarios. And I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the skill-based matchmaking in pubs and how difficult it is. We'll find out Thursday. We're going to be doing some solo no-fill, and I'm going to be honest, I've been pretty rusty, but we're going to get back into it. With this season, in Season 18, I promise you, as a viewer, of you watching, that we are dedicated to improving, mastering Watson, and taking things up to the next level. And I promise, even as you're seeing downtime here, there's a lot of stuff that we can still talk about and break down because of just how, you know, let's take a look at the zone. I find the Spectating series also maybe a little bit faster. I know we tend to keep it raw, but look how the timer is, and you can't see it. It's 54 seconds. And how much faster the zones do close in the pressure. I've been seeing less rats, like intentional ratting at the very start, partly because the zones are closing so quickly that you might as well just play with your squad and make the best effort. Then if you don't win, then this I would say this playstyle is reasonable, because this is the most logical thing you can do until you find the perfect opportunity to strike. Essentially, you go full covert mode, and then you wait, and then you go. Because right now we got 23 seconds until they have to move, and this zone is not going to be very favorable. This is actually 9 squads remaining. This is actually pretty interesting, and being on KC is pretty interesting as well, because there's been a lot of third parties, but I do feel a shift happening. And let me know in the comments if you disagree. Well, people are fighting a lot outside of zone, that some of the end zones have been quite rewarding, and they have been a lot of fun, I will admit. Especially, I had a few on Olympus that were really, really fun and engaging, and even, believe it or not, on Broken Moon of all maps, because I know the third parties can get quite heavy there. As a reminder, the zone still hurts. I know zone 4 tick is a little bit less, but it's still pretty brutal. And a lot of people are mistiming their heals. So keep in mind, if you're one of those individuals, to just maybe not play zone as much and go to zone and hunker down for what you want. If you play edge of zone, be on the understanding that you may be forced to fight a lot more, because even if you go into zone here, there might be a team already waiting in a building, and then if you have to rotate through that, understand what it's always thinking 2 steps ahead and what that is, right? Now, let's say you have a really bad night and you're forced to rat a lot and you feel like you didn't play. This is why it's important to lock around some time and just practice a little bit. This is one of those scenarios, like, what if the next two, the whole spectating series of what we're going to deal with here is just this scenario? And for a lot of people, this might be what you actually encounter and deal with, which is why being in the test range and utilizing different guns and practicing with them, or even aim training just a little bit to kind of keep fresh, because sometimes you may run into a night that might be rough like this, especially if you're solo queuing. Solo queuing is pretty hard, a lot more difficult this season. Last season was really easy, I'm gonna be honest. Getting points and going up was relatively easy. I think this season, I still have a theory, and we'll pull up the graph one more time. I want you guys to see it here. When we look at this graph, you're gonna see that it's still, I think it'll still get to the point where it gets stuck around diamond and people will push through. I think it's a matter of resetting it, because it still says, in rank season that we have about, 38 plus days remaining of this split, quote unquote split. I wonder if they're going to take that time and then cut it in half, or reset provisionals and then still have it be the same badge. I don't really quite know. It's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to see some changes during that time frame, so expect rank to still be adjusted, and I'm hoping that's what their intention is, because that's what Respawn said that they were going to do, that they were going to monitor this. Let's take a look. So they have about, look how fast that was, much faster. There's still 8 squads remaining. 8 squads remaining based on the zone, and this is about to become just one big mess. So this Bangalore is actually going to net out and get quite a few points, because, let's say 2 more squads get out, at least they're going positive, right? That's going to be the overall goal, is at least going positive points. Again, if you want to fight, go fight, but don't necessarily. And also another tip as well, if you're looking at the mini map there, you can tell it'll stop blinking. Right now it's pulsating on the upper left. It'll stop pulsating once you're in the zone. Right now they're not in. It'll stop pulsing. Look, they got a rat there. Very nice. That's a good moment to kind of secure. Another tip as well, if you ever see somebody else ratting and they're pushing forward, they're essentially clearing the way for you. So it's a good moment to kind of push forward. This is really close. This is a close fight. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Whiffs on both sides. Unfortunate. That was pretty close, though. Not bad. Revenant can be really tough to fight, especially if he's got his ult there. Revenant has... I've been seeing a lot of them. Comment down below if you've been seeing a lot of Revenant. I've been seeing a lot of Rev. I've been seeing a lot of them make a lot of mistakes. But like it was the tip I was giving earlier, if you see a rat moving forward, that's your perfect time to tell, okay, I'm going to be able to push forward because they are kind of clearing the way for me. So if you're ever wondering why somebody might be giving chase, it's because you're literally clearing the path for them overall. I'm not sure why they're spam pinging for them to craft their banner. That's a big troll. Again, you know what's it's crazy? I would say last season, I was running into people who were less... it seems like the point system, because it's a lot more strict, people are really getting salty about losing points, and there's nothing wrong with being competitive, right? But it is a good moment to have some self-reflection and realize that there's a lot of variables on why things don't go the way they're supposed to, right? And being self-aware is really, really important. Even if you're a good player, everyone has a bad game. You may run into have a pred player. Oh, here's another tip. A lot of people who have hit masters. There's another rat right there. Look at that. So they're going to play the waiting game. Oh, they found him. Pretty much all the remaining squads. There's 2 rats and a full squad. See how this plays out. I think this res is pretty much gone though. All we got to do is just keep bouncing around. Oh, close. What we might need to do as well is jump cut because these queues are really, really long. I know before we would be able to talk in between, but right now these queues have been pretty astronomical and pretty long. A lot of teams, well, you'll notice, here's another tip, that there's a lot of rats. Now, those people were not intentionally ratting, and I know from experience fighting a lot of those teams, is that they dogpile in the middle of a lobby, and then they all run to zone because they realize they didn't win. So most of the end games, you may run into a lot of rats, but they're not intentionally ratting from what I have been seeing. They've all been dogpiling on top of each other, trying to third, and they're all failing. Keep in mind, if everyone has the same mindset to third, then that is kind of what it is, and just try not to make that mistake and become a part of the dogpile. When people comment down below and they want to know, wow, that was a lot of LP for 0 damage doing absolutely nothing. Now, another thing that people have been asking is why people's LP much higher than others, and it has everything to do with this hidden MMR system. I mean, very honest with you, I have no idea how it works. It could be based on prior hitting masters, your prior rank, it could be your KD, it could be your damage output per round. I don't really know. And wow, that queue is much faster, meaning maybe we got put in a high lobby and now we're put in a much easier one. I'm not really quite sure. I mean, overall, this account we're never going to ever use again. I just wanted to see what happens whenever we hit some provisional matches again. It's going to be kind of the overall thought process. There's a few subjects I know I said I was going to add some color commentary to. I apologize if I forget. You guys will comment down below and yell at me, essentially. But I'm kind of glad to get back into this series again. And the goal is that everyone wants to improve, and I think this is a season. I've been dedicating, like I said earlier, to putting more time in. I've already hit 2 scores in the Voltaic Grand Masters, hit Masters Voltaic, which is an aim training benchmark. We are putting more time in Watson. We are going to do solo no-fills again. I'm out of practice, so this Thursday's video is going to be really bad. I'm going to be very honest, but I hope to showcase and document the journey of improving again. I think we spent a lot of time on Vantage and Lubba. I think Vantage is going to be my secondary main based on what I want to do, but I'm going to be putting initially a lot of time onto Watson. So hope you guys will join me on the journey, and as we're going to do another spectating episode next week as well. And the reason why is I want to see how rank continues to change, because technically this is 1 week. See if anybody's near us. We have 1 team here. We're pretty safe and isolated, so it looks like we're okay. Oh, I got tapped out. Interesting. All right, hopefully it doesn't mess anything up. I'm not really sure why I got tapped out, but okay. There we go again. All right, I mean, I can pretty much rock with what I got. This is pretty good. Being very quick with your loadout is really important. I'm gonna run the Sentinel instead.
Heavy ammo here.
They didn't hit the center beacon. It's fine. I'll go loot over here on the far right, and then we'll just be ready to rock and roll and go to zone if needed. I'll take that. Thank you. Appreciate you. We do need a bag, but we're pretty much good to go. If you're playing Watson, another big tip is just be really, really fast on your loot and confident on your loadout, because that's going to help you as well. You don't always need the perfect loadout. You don't need every single attachment on the ground. Now, because the zones are closing faster, it is important to rotate and go to zone. Kind of find a healthy balance, right? Find that middle ground of being sure you're with your teammates, but you don't fall too far behind. Since we're getting a little packet lost here. The servers haven't been perfect for me, but I haven't dealt with anything too bad. I've been hearing reports of people running into a bit of packet loss issues. So let me know if you're also one of those people. Kind of curious overall. Just keeping an eye on where a Pathfinder's going. I'm going to go follow the Pathfinder to back him up. I'll keep 1 Arc Star on me. Keep an Alt Excel. I don't need this much Sniper, but I'll hold on to it anyways because I'm already rotating. So we'll go. Right now we're in zone. This beacon is here. Give us information on where we need to go. Again, the rules of this, which I kind of forgot to kind of gloss over at the start. Essentially, we play as much as we can with our squad. If we get eliminated early, we get eliminated early. It is what it is. But the plus side is we could do a lot more spectating and kind of break things down from there.
Supply bin over there.
Take the other side, make sure they're not over there.
Enemy over there.
Yep.
Got an Evo shield
We're pretty far. This is like the. It's like, again, this is a downside, is you kind of have to choose between mommy and daddy consistently, and then deal with it in therapy later. You know. What the heck? He's at an angle that I can't even see. I can hold for him though.
Anyone passes through here.
Wow, you had a really good angle on him apparently. I can't even. He's not even poking. I'm waiting for the teammate to come in before I overextend. If I can get a nice crack, use the head glitch here. It's really close to landing on him. Oh, okay. Woo, hello, that's a lot of 30-30s. Oh my gosh! We're trapped. It's not good. I'll block this door, they can block the other one. I'll put Jen in here at least. I'll go with them. Look down from below. 70. We just gotta hold. Cracked them, that's good. Watching my teammates. They're gonna keep putting pressure on me, but... Okay, we're just holding at the moment. That's our biggest thing, is we just gotta hold. I'm at a pretty decent head glitch. I think they're getting thirded. No. Could have been a knock if I landed that. Okay, they're moving that way. There's two teams that way. We're in zone. We could hunker down. We could fight. Either one works for me. It's not the worst situation to be in, to be honest. It would be nice to dish out a little more damage. I can hit that console, the watch. Let's watch left. We're good. We'll hit that console just so we have information, even though the zone is closing. They're rotating, so I'm not worried right now. Yeah, we're in zone. We're good. Now, this is a scenario where you ask yourself, should we fight or should we go in, you know, just sit and hunker down? Both are perfectly acceptable. You know, especially if you're playing with randoms. There's not really necessarily a harm with it. Put those fences in case we want to backtrack. Oh, hello.
I'm in trouble. I've got an Evo shield here. It's cool.
70? Oh. Alright, if I got a headshot right there, that would have been it. I need to grab that. Unless Frosty's got it. I'll let Frosty get it. Or that person to get it. Now we could scale up and move up. I'm kind of just moving at the pace of my teammates right now. They seem like they want to hold, so I'm just going to hold for now. Okay, I'm just going to armor swap. They're going to move forward, I think. Gotta find an opening. Okay. That was a good charge rifle use. Because the charge rifle opens the doors now. That's pretty smart. I respect it. This here, just keep holding for now. I hate being hunkered down in. I want to showcase a little presence outside, but kind of the card we're dealt with right now. Oh, hello. I think they're fighting outside the building right now. Two teams?
They're dropping a replicator.
Ooh, he's gonna climb. I'm climbing up. I'm gonna look. Quick look. I'm going back in. Actually, I'm gonna hop off on the gen. It was two teams. A little risky. I know, but at least we get to showcase this. Get them to back off. A lot of teams are really pushing the zone, which is okay. Not the best situation to be in, but we'll be okay.
They spotted me.
Ooh. Cover for him. One down. Don't get shot from above. Okay, we hold again. I feel like I'm barely warming up or starting to. That's okay, sometimes it takes a little while. Oh, they went right through the fence. That's crazy. I'm dead. Rip. Good try, good try. I should have landed more of the mag there, to be honest. But that's kind of where you find the hold in the dog pile. Right now, that's kind of where the dog pile is, but the goal is to... You want to peek out, but only when it has logic or reason. So essentially the Wraith kind of overextended. Keep in mind I did as well, and I could have gotten knocked. So it's just trying to find that balance between, do I have cover? Do I know where they're gone and what's going on? Do I have somebody watching for me? And that improves whenever you're with a consistent squad. When you're playing with randoms, it can be pretty difficult. Which is why you probably heard me say, I guess a good example. They might be on the roof. I'm not going to over peek out. I got to be careful. You know, try to think 2 steps ahead of what's going to happen. And even if you know it's a risky play, then you know without a shadow of a doubt not to get upset with your teammates, because it's like, hey, I went for a play and it just didn't work. Our damage was definitely better that go around. It could have been much better still. I should have been able to one mag that Wraith, and the fence placement could have been better. And I wish I was there to hold for the Wraith, knowing that she wanted to go outside. We both could have played that a little better as well. Now the zone's going to pull upper left.
Care package over there.
Things going to be over here. Oh, wow. Bottom left. Let's go. Okay. This would still be a good spot to hold. Being towards the edge whenever the zone is really out in the open is probably a better play than being in the center when there's nothing like there, essentially. The center area is really hard to hold. Really good shots. Look at that. G7 scout damage. Very nice. They must be on roller because they are not moving while looting. So warm-ups are helpful. Anything to kind of get you warmed up. And you know, these rounds actually went a little bit faster. So keep that in mind, where sometimes it just takes you a minute to get back to your... You may come home from school. Maybe you're coming home from work. It may take a second to kind of get in the mindset. If you are having a bad day, that mental does impact you and how well you're playing. A lot of those factors do come into play. So when somebody's asking, I don't feel like I'm consistent, I'm not, you know, what's going on? Sometimes think of all the factors. Was it your mindset that day? Do you have a lot of other stresses to worry about? Did you warm up compared to the other day? Are you changing settings for the day? The teammates that you get is another variable. Maybe your teammates that day just happen to be better than the next day. Did the zone pull in your favor? Did you hot drop and happen to get better loot than the prior day? What you're trying to look for as you're doing a lot of ranked and spending a lot of time this season is a consistent through line. What you're trying to do is find a little bit of consistency. If you find consistency, you're going to be in a much better spot. Like, I guarantee you, we'll still get a good amount of points. This account seems like it'll land around silver, which is why I think that's where kind of everyone's kind of sitting. Rookie, bronze, and silver, approximately. Even some of the top-end people landed around gold and silver initially, before it let you really start to go up on the ranks. This will change as the season goes a little further and people start to do provisionals again. You may get placed higher, so don't let your provisionals get you down. Even last season, there was people who got immediately thrown into the highest rank, which is Masters, based on the provisional matches. So right now, the issue that happened with this squad, nobody was really watching for them. That happens. It's okay. Communication could be rough as a solo. That was a little rough. That's okay. They're going for it. The other person thinks a little further behind. Nice. it's got to be the third. Where's the third?
I'm down.
All right, at least they're trying to get together. One of them could have gone for the res already, but they decided to kind of abandon the teammate. It's a decision, just not necessarily a wrong decision. Let's see what they're able to do. How many people are left? We got 7 squads remaining.
Contact with enemy.
If you can make it to this zone, this is generally where it... Man, KC has been very interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely been interesting. They have the opportunity to res though, still. I think they still have it. They smoke them out. Or even just get in the building, I think they can res. No, they didn't res. That's okay. You know, one thing that'll happen is that some people get really mad, and just sometimes you never know exactly like what the thought process is, the concern. Some people will come back and tell you, I was really scared about this. I needed loot. I didn't think it was gonna work. One thing you want to try to do is shave down your decision making for better or for worse, right? I'll use myself as an example. I went for the res immediately, even though I could have made the decision to hold with the Revenant, but I trusted the Revenant to hold, right? But I made the decision, and sometimes making the decision is better than kind of floating on a decision, shaving down those seconds, going for something, and trying to follow your own logical path. And don't let anybody tell you that it was in the moment that you are just straight up bad. If you went for something and tried it and then learned from it, you're good. So like an example, you know, the Bangalore, yeah, you could speed up the thought process and everything, but then you know afterwards, like, man, I should have gone for the res. Like, how many times do you hear me in the Spectating series say, I should have watched the Wraith whenever she was going out. You know, I could have fenced outside more. I could have landed my shots on the Wraith more effectively. At the start of the game, I could have warmed up prior, so then I was ready. I didn't have to pick up that heavy ammo. I should have paid attention to what guns I was using. I could have, now, don't use that information to get yourself down, of course. Oh, I don't know if they saw the other person behind them. No way they don't get knocked from this. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. That other person was over there. That's crazy. Wow, that's pretty crazy, though. I'm surprised the other person didn't hold for them. Didn't we see this person earlier? I'm pretty sure we saw this person earlier in the lobby. It goes to show that your skill-based matchmaking could be very, very different in the Spectating series. I tried best I could to see if this would kind of get us around the silver mark. I don't leave this count alone. I'll try to do it again next week to see what the next 2 rounds look like if you wait another week. I want to see if it'll just kind of keep us around that like bracket essentially, or if skill-based matchmaking is just that crazy. Well, we'll have to see.
I need health.
But it is interesting. How many teams are there? 5 squads remaining. We got... This is... Unfortunately, that's a cross. The building is ideal. They could hold the gate right here. And there's a rock they could hold all the way up here. It's not ideal, but it's something. Getting the ult back so I can throw down the ult. And also throw Bangle. Bangle will be really effective in getting them out. Oh. Team pushing them. They have to make a decision at this point. You have to push one thing or the other. Yeah, I think in this scenario, just kind of going for the unfortunate Hail Mary is probably the best thing you can do. Because sometimes you can't avoid the fight. You know, you do run into forced fighting. Like at this point, with the zone closing, you are forced to kind of go towards something. You either are going to have to push left or push right. I don't think there's any scenario where they get this res off. Might be able to punch him in. But I think that the hill, yeah. What's going to happen with this bang is that they're going to have to make... I think when they get a little closer, they can throw their ult, and they're going to have to make a decision to kind of gate something. This zone hurts. And then you are forced to fight. When you are forced to fight, could get a little delayed, but ultimately you will be forced to fight because of zone. So if they were together, that would be my suggestion. If the idea is that you're always playing with your squad and you're playing together. If the Lobe and the Bangalore said, let's just go left together and put pressure and focus one area, that helps a lot. And that could be hard, so keep that in mind whenever you're solo queuing and you're trying to make your best guess. And if a teammates get a little split, do your best to try to stick onto somebody best you can. Like when I made the decision to stick on the Rev, or you know, hoping that the Loba could get out. Sometimes your guess may not be correct, and then what you can do is keep improving that guesswork. And even I'm working on improving that guesswork, especially playing a lot more Watson, because my Vantage, I got so accustomed to having an out that now playing Watson again is definitely, it's pretty difficult. It's not as easy. Too many, I think it's only 3 squads. Yeah, 3 squads. All they got to do is hold. One's crossing over. One tip for Valkyries, don't ever hop and fly into the air and Q like that. You're pretty much a sitting duck. And costs you a whole lot. Oh, they canceled it. Oh no. If they're able to hold height, they could essentially bully the teams off to secure space. And this is another moment where I say, you know, when you're fighting for space, but do it together best you can. So biggest tip, let's try to recap a little bit as we get to the end of the round here. Try to play as a squad. Try to play together whether you're solo queuing or not. Try to make guesses on what you believe they're going to do. Don't get upset if the guess is incorrect, and sometimes you may make mistakes, and they're honest mistakes. But as long as you're trying for something, if your intentions are pure, then you know that you did the best you could. Don't rage at other teammates. There's no reason to rage and try to ruin somebody else's day. Everyone is solo queuing or may not have the perfect squad, and it can be a real big pain. Going to zone is always a really strong option. Try to warm up a little bit beforehand. But making a decision as a squad and fighting for something that is worth a decision as a team is valuable. When people say push fights, they mean to get involved to the point where you can have options available to you, meaning you're playing from cover or using a half peg glitch. Remember, running out in the open towards somebody without any blatant cover is just bad decision making as a whole. And you'll know and be like, well, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I just was out in the open. And that happens. So as long as you're self-aware and you try to fix it, fine. But don't get mad at somebody else because of the mistake you made, kind of thing, you know? This team might win. They're hugging each other pretty close here. Armor swap, armor swap. Nice. And that's GG's. I think they won that. I think the Wraith is just porting away. Oh, hello. Yeah, that's GG's. That's over. Good game. Thank you guys so much for watching this new episode of the Spectating series. Let me know. We got to put a lot of time on ourselves, I'm going to be honest. This season's going to be my big Watson arc. Less Vantage. I'm going to be putting time in. We're going to master Watson this season. You're going to see from the start of the season to the end, I promise you that we're going to have some results. Even if it's incremental, we're going to have results. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope that this was educational. Hopefully it was helpful towards you and your rank journey. We'll document and we'll see how things go. Thank you guys again. I'll see you guys all in the next episode. Bye, everybody.